The sun was shining brightly that Friday morning, illuminating the school hallways as if it wanted to celebrate the party everyone was looking forward to. The day promised to be special, a moment of joy and fun, and I was excited. It was the last day of school before the holidays, and all the students were eager to make the most of every second. Laughter echoed everywhere, and I felt part of something big, a united community. Lucas was the beating heart of that school. He always had a smile on his face and a word of encouragement for everyone. The group of friends that formed around him felt more like a small family. I, Anna, and my friends Raphael and Beatriz were inseparable. Lucas's contagious energy could turn even the cloudiest days into a celebration. That morning, he had promised it would be the best day ever. "Did you see what Beatriz prepared for the party?" Raphael asked as we walked down the hallway. He shook his head, trying to hold back a smile. "I think she wants to throw the biggest party in school history." "I just hope she didn't plan something too over the top," I replied, laughing. "You know how she is. She always wants to be the star of the show." "And you, Anna? Are you going to dance at the party?" Raphael teased, making a face. "I bet you're rehearsing a secret dance number." "Oh, shut up, Raphael. You know I'm not good at dancing. Better leave that to you and Beatrice," I retorted as we passed through the auditorium door, where the party was set to take place. The music was already echoing from inside the room, and the smell of popcorn and soda filled the air. Smiling, I entered the auditorium, and the sight before me was stunning. The lights were flashing, and the decorations were impeccable. Beatrice was in the center of the room, organizing everything like the true leader she was. "You guys made it! We need you for the countdown," she shouted, waving at us. The excitement in her voice was contagious. Lucas was by her side, laughing and helping distribute the final preparations. "Hi, Anna. You look beautiful today." Lucas greeted me with a radiant smile. My heart raced. He always had that effect on me, as if the world around us disappeared when we were together. "Thank you, Lucas. And you? Ready to rock the dance floor?" I asked, trying not to let on how nervous his presence made me. "Of course, today is our day. Let's enjoy." He winked, and I couldn't help but smile. That was the essence of Lucas, always ready to make the most out of life. The party began, and the music took over the atmosphere. We danced, laughed, and celebrated the friendship we had built over the years. Time flew by, and when I looked at the clock, hours had passed. That's when Beatrice took the stage and grabbed the microphone. "Hey everyone, I want you all to join me for a countdown. Let's celebrate that we're together." Her voice echoed through the auditorium, and everyone started to get excited, counting together. 3, 2, 1, the crowd shouted in unison, and I found myself caught in a collective hug, laughing and jumping with joy. It was a magical moment, an instant I wished would never end. But, as everyone knows, life has its ups and downs. As the party started to cool down and people began to disperse, an unease began to spread. I noticed that Lucas was no longer by my side. I looked around, searching for him, but I couldn't find him. "Beatrice, have you seen Lucas?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "No, I haven't seen him. He was here a little while ago. He must be in the bathroom or something." "Don't worry, he always shows up," she replied, but her voice had a tone of concern that didn't go unnoticed. Minutes passed, and anxiety started to settle in my chest. "I'm going to look for him," I said, determined. I walked down the hallway and passed through the auditorium door, but I didn't see him anywhere. The noise of the party began to diminish, and the festive atmosphere turned into something darker. "Lucas, where are you?" I called, but all I heard was the empty echo of the school. What was happening? The feeling that something was wrong started to grow inside me. I returned to the auditorium and found Beatrice and Raphael. "He hasn't shown up. We really need to look for him," I said, urgency rising in my voice. "Calm down, Anna. He must have gotten distracted by someone. Or, I don't know, maybe he went home early." Raphael tried to calm me, but I felt something was off. The party ended, and the auditorium was empty. The cleaning crew began to tidy up, and the tension in the air was palpable. "Let's go to the parking lot," Beatrice suggested, already getting up. "Maybe he went there." We went to the parking lot, but there was no sign of Lucas. Despair began to set in. What if something happened to him? I murmured, my heart racing. Don't think like that, Anna. He must be around, Beatrice said, trying to be optimistic, but her voice trembled. Hours passed, and the school was almost deserted. Concern turned into despair as the news began to spread. Lucas hadn't returned home. His parents were notified, and the police were called. The festive atmosphere had turned into a nightmare. "We need to do something," I said, looking at the worried faces of my friends. "We can't just wait." "But what can we do? The police are on their way," Raphael replied, his voice tense. "We need to search on our own. He could be somewhere, and if we don't do anything, it might be too late," I said, feeling determination grow inside me. With Beatrice's help, we decided to go back to the school. The dark atmosphere of the night enveloped the building, and every shadow seemed to hide a secret. As we walked through the hallways, a strange feeling began to take over me. It was as if someone was watching me. "Are you okay, Anna?" Beatrice asked, noticing my worried expression. It's strange to be here like this. It feels like the school is alive, but in a way I can't explain," I replied, looking around. Finally, we reached Lucas's locker. It was locked. A mix of sadness and despair washed over me. I'm going to open it," I said, reaching for the lock. As I opened it, a chill ran down my spine. That's when I heard it. An inexplicable whisper, like a gentle breeze that seemed to call my name. "Anna." "Did you guys hear that?" I asked, my eyes wide. They looked at me in confusion. "What did you hear?" Beatrice questioned, but her voice was low, almost as if she too was starting to feel the strangeness of the moment. "It was his voice." "I'm sure of it," I said, sensing that something supernatural was beginning to unfold before us. Silence settled in, and the tension grew. Lucas's locker was filled with his belongings, but something more was there, a feeling that he needed us, that there was something deeper behind his disappearance. "Let's search more. We need to understand what happened to him," I said, determined. The mystery was just beginning, and we had no idea what we were about to uncover. The day after Lucas's disappearance was marked by a heavy atmosphere at school. The hallways, which once pulsed with laughter and chatter, now felt like a maze of silences and worried glances. I was back in class, but every word from the teacher faded into a distant echo. My mind, a storm of questions, revolved around what could have happened to my friend. His locker, which used to be a meeting point for our quick chats between classes, now felt like a chamber of secrets. As I passed by it, a shiver ran down my spine. "Did you hear about the whispers?" Beatrice asked, appearing beside me, with an expression that mixed concern and determination. "They say some people have heard strange things near Lucas's locker. I heard it too," I replied, remembering the moment I approached the locker and felt a chill that wasn't just from the school's breeze. "It's like he's trying to communicate." Raphael, who had always been the most skeptical in our group, raised an eyebrow. "Whispers? That's just your imagination, Anna. We can't let this distract us. We have to be rational." "Rational or not, something isn't right," Beatrice insisted, crossing her arms. "We need to investigate. We need to find out what happened to him." I nodded, although a part of me was hesitant. What could we really discover? What if the answers were more disturbing than the questions? But Beatrice's determined look convinced me. Lucas was our friend, and we couldn't just leave things as they were. That night, we met in the school library. The dim light from the lamps created dancing shadows on the walls, as if the books themselves were watching our gathering. Beatrice sat at the table, opening her notebook. "Let's make a plan. We need to explore the places Lucas used to hang out. Maybe we'll find a clue." "And what if we get caught?" Raphael asked hesitantly. "The school is already full of rumors. No one wants to get involved with strange things right now." "And what if we do nothing and Lucas never shows up?" Beatrice shot back, her voice as firm as steel. "We need to do this. We can't leave it like this." The tension hung in the air as we discussed our options. We decided to start with the art room, one of Lucas's favorite places. He always talked about how art helped him express himself, how it made him feel free. Part of me wanted to believe that he was still somehow there, in every brushstroke he had made. The next day, we met in the art room, the place still infused with the smell of paint and paper. The windows were closed and the atmosphere was darker than usual. Beatrice began to explore the shelves in search of anything that might catch our attention. "Look at this," she shouted, holding up a small, worn notebook. "It looks like a diary." Raphael stepped closer, and I did too. The notebook was filled with drawings and notes, but what caught my attention were the blank pages, where something seemed to have been erased. "He was writing something here," I commented, running my fingers over the pages. "But it's no longer legible." "Let's take this and investigate later," Beatrice suggested, determined. "We need all the clues we can find." But just as we were about to leave, a sudden noise made our hearts race. A book fell from a nearby shelf, hitting the floor with a thud. I turned around. The light flickered as if the school were breathing. "It was just an accident," Raphael said, trying to sound calm, but his voice trembled. "Or maybe not," I murmured. A shiver ran down my spine. "We need to get out of here." As soon as we left the art room, the feeling of being watched followed me. As we walked through the hallways, the tension grew. What else could be lurking in the shadows of the school? In the following days, the situation only worsened. Books continued to fall, lockers opened by themselves, and whispers echoed through the corridors. Beatrice became increasingly convinced that Lucas was trying to communicate with us. "We need to do something about this. We can't ignore it," she said in one of our meetings. "But what can we do?" I asked. "We don't know anything about these events." "We can try to hold a seance," Beatrice suggested, her voice heavy with determination. "Maybe we can connect with his spirit." "That's crazy," Raphael countered, shaking his head. "We can't mess with that stuff. What if something goes wrong?" "What if we do nothing and Lucas never finds peace?" Beatrice insisted, her eyes burning with the passion of leadership. "We have to try." Finally, I gave in to the group's pressure. The idea of holding a seance seemed absurd, but something inside me desperately wanted to understand what had happened to Lucas. We gathered again, this time in a more secluded area of the school, away from curious eyes. An empty classroom, where silence became a palpable presence. The table was covered with candles, and the atmosphere was charged with expectation and fear. Beatrice began to explain how everything would work, and Raphael, though reluctant, agreed to participate. "We'll only do this once," he said, his voice firm, but his eyes betrayed his concern. "We need an object that belonged to Lucas," I suggested. "Something he touched or that has meaning for him." Beatrice quickly remembered the notebook we found in the art room. "It's perfect. He was writing about his thoughts, his feelings. Let's use that." The candles were lit, illuminating our faces and casting shadows on the walls. Beatrice led the seance, her hand steady on the notebook. "Lucas, if you are here, please give us a sign." Silence settled in, heavy and oppressive. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat echoing like a war drum. The atmosphere seemed to vibrate, and a cold breeze swept through the room, making the candles flicker. "It's just the wind," Raphael whispered, but his voice had a tone of doubt. Then something unexpected happened. The notebook began to move in Beatrice's hands as if an invisible force was pulling it. "Lucas," she called, her voice trembling, "if you're here, show yourself." The candles suddenly went out, plunging the room into darkness. The air became thick, almost suffocating. I heard a whisper, but I couldn't make out the words. My heart raced, and a wave of fear ran down my spine. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice faltering. "Let's go back," Raphael shouted, and in a rush we all got up, ready to run. But before we could move, a faint light began to glow, revealing a figure in front of us. What appeared to be a shadow twisted, and I felt as if I were being pulled into that darkness. "Lucas?" Beatrice said, fear and hope mingled in her voice. "Is that you?" The figure seemed hesitant, as if struggling to manifest. I felt a lump in my throat, a mix of despair and curiosity. "Please say something," I pleaded, almost in a whisper. But before we could understand what was happening, the light went out again, and everything returned to silence. The room was empty, and the notebook fell to the floor with a thud. "Was that real?" I asked, feeling reality dissolve around me. Fear had taken hold of me, and I could barely breathe. "We need to find out what was written in that diary," Beatrice said, her voice firm, but her eyes showed the same fear I felt. "There's something behind this, and we need to understand." And so, the search for answers began. Whatever Lucas was trying to tell us, we were determined to find out. even if it meant facing the unknown. The school, with its secrets and mysteries, seemed more alive than ever, and we were just its puppets, pulled by invisible strings in search of the truth. The daylight was starting to fade as we gathered again in the classroom we used as a shelter and planning space. The smell of old wood and the echo of our voices filled the room, but the atmosphere was charged with palpable tension. The diary we found was our passport to a world of secrets that Lucas, our missing friend, had guarded so closely. I sat at one of the desks, flipping through the yellowed and worn pages, while Beatrice and Raphael huddled close to me, eager to discover what more those words could reveal. "Look at this," said Beatrice, pointing to a particular passage. "It talks about a group of students who met regularly. They performed rituals and had a greater purpose. Lucas never mentioned any of this to us." Raphael, ever the skeptic, frowned. "Rituals? That sounds more like a horror story than something that could have really happened. We can't let ourselves get carried away by this. It could just be a group of kids trying to feel special." "But what if it's not?" I retorted, trying to stay calm. "What if Lucas was really involved? That could explain everything. His disappearance, the whispers I heard near his locker." Raphael rolled his eyes, but I could see that, despite his disbelief, there was a spark of concern in his gaze. "Okay, let's assume Lucas was really mixed up in this. What exactly was he trying to do? Why didn't he tell us?" Beatrice sighed, her gaze fixed on the pages of the diary. "He might have felt like he couldn't involve us. And if they were doing something dangerous, what else could this group be hiding?" The tension mounted as we discussed. The idea that Lucas, our friend, was more involved than we imagined was terrifying. The diary not only spoke of rituals, but also mentioned a specific place where these meetings took place, an old auditorium in the school. The name seemed to echo in my mind, as if I had heard it before. "We need to investigate that auditorium," I suggested, feeling a chill in my stomach at the thought of entering that place. "Maybe there we can find more answers about what happened to Lucas." "I don't know if that's a good idea," Raphael said, shaking his head. "What if there's something there we're not prepared to face?" Beatrice, with her natural courage, intervened. "We have to do this. Lucas deserves for us to find out the truth. And if that place is really connected to what happened, we can't ignore it." I agreed with Beatrice. The desire to understand what had happened to Lucas outweighed the fear that was beginning to settle in me. "Let's go then. We need to prepare and go before it gets dark." The path to the auditorium was shrouded in shadows. The school building looked different at that hour, with the hallways echoing our voices and whispers seeming to emanate from the walls. As we reached the auditorium door, a chill ran down my spine. The door was ajar, as if inviting us in. "Let's go," Beatrice said, pushing the door open with determination. The creaking wood echoed through the empty space, revealing a dark auditorium with dusty chairs arranged in rows. The stage, illuminated by a faint light coming through a broken window, seemed to have been the setting for many important moments, but now it was immersed in an unsettling silence. "Look," I said, pointing to the back of the auditorium where an old altar was covered in a layer of dust. "It looks like something happened here." Raphael hesitated to step forward. "This is bizarre. What could this be?" "Rituals," Beatrice replied, her voice low and reverent. "This is a place where something important happened, and we need to find out what." We approached the altar, and I noticed that there were burned marks on the wood, as if something had been sacrificed there. The feeling of discomfort grew, and I felt my heart race. "What do you think happened here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Maybe it was an initiation rite," Beatrice suggested, examining the marks. "Or something much darker." Raphael shook his head, still skeptical. "We can't let this scare us. We need to be rational. Let's look for more evidence that Lucas was involved." With that in mind, we began to search the auditorium. The smell of mold and rotting wood filled the air, and with each step the atmosphere felt heavier. Beatrice found some boxes in a corner, covered in dust. "Look at this," she exclaimed, pulling one out. Inside were various strange objects, candles, ropes, and an old book that seemed to be filled with notes. My heart raced at the sight of what she had found. This could be important." Raphael took the book and began to flip through it. "Here are drawings of strange symbols and notes about summoning rituals." His tone had changed, and for the first time, I noticed a hint of concern in his expression. "This is serious. We need to understand what this means," Beatrice said, now with a determined glint in her eyes. "Lucas was involved, and this might give us clues about what happened to him." As we continued to examine the material, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were delving into something that should have remained buried. The words from the diary echoed in my mind: a secret society, dark rituals, and a missing friend. "Maybe we should make a recording," I suggested, the idea suddenly coming to me. "Try to capture some message, perhaps from Lucas's spirit. He might want to communicate something to us." Raphael hesitated. "Do you really think this will work? What if it's not safe?" "We have to try," Beatrice insisted. "Lucas deserves for us to fight for him, and if he's trying to warn us, we can't ignore that." We agreed to set up a small recording device that was at the school. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation as we prepared for the session. The tension was palpable, and my stomach was in knots. "Let's sit in a circle and try to connect," I said, positioning myself next to Beatrice and Raphael. "Whatever is here, we want to hear you." The room was silent, except for the sound of the recording starting to pick up the environment. "Lucas, if you're here, please show us a sign," I asked, feeling a shiver run down my body. Minutes dragged on as we waited. The silence seemed to stretch, and I began to wonder if we were just wasting time. But then a low, indistinct whisper began to emerge from the recording. It was as if something was trying to communicate. "Did you hear that?" Beatrice asked, her eyes wide. "It was Lucas's voice." "No, wait. That doesn't make sense," Raphael said, his expression a mix of skepticism and astonishment. "It could just be noise." But I knew it wasn't. The feeling that we were connecting with something greater was undeniable. The whisper intensified, and I could make out one word: help. "What does that mean?" I murmured, feeling my heart race in my chest. "What does Lucas want us to do?" Beatrice, tears in her eyes, looked at us. "He's asking for help. We need to find out the truth. We can't give up now." Raphael seemed torn between logic and emotion. "What if this is dangerous? What if we're messing with forces we don't understand?" "We have no choice," I said, my voice firm. "If Lucas was involved with this society, we have to find out what happened." The recording continued to pick up whispers, and anxiety grew in our hearts. I knew we were about to cross a line that we couldn't return from. The desire to uncover the truth was consuming us, but at the same time, there was a growing fear about what we were really about to face. With the diary and the materials we found, I knew the next step in our investigation would be crucial. What else had Lucas left us? What secrets were still hidden within the walls of the school? The mystery was just beginning to unfold, and we were determined to press on, no matter the cost. The atmosphere in the old school auditorium was heavy, almost palpable. The smell of mold and the dust dancing under the dim light of the broken spotlights broke the silence, creating a sense of discomfort that made me shiver with every step we took. I was one of the last to enter, followed by Beatrice, Raphael, and Anna, who seemed equally apprehensive. What were we about to discover? The thought that Lucas had been here, in this very space, made me uneasy. Beatrice was the first to break the silence. "This is where it all began. If Lucas was involved with this secret society, there's a good chance we can find answers." Her voice was steady, but there was an underlying weakness that didn't go unnoticed. Raphael, ever the skeptic, shook his head in disbelief. "I just hope this doesn't end up being another ghost story. We're not kids, Beatrice." Anna, who was by my side, looked at Raphael with a worried expression. "What if it's not just a story? The diary talked about rituals and disappearances. We need to take this seriously." The tension in the air was palpable, and the darkness of the auditorium seemed to swallow us as we approached the stage. Ascending the steps to the stage, the boards creaked under our feet as if protesting our presence. In the back, a large faded backdrop displayed a symbol I recognized immediately from the diary. It was an emblem representing the secret society, and a wave of cold ran down my spine. "Here it is," I said, pointing to the symbol. "It's the same as we saw in the diary. What does this mean?" Beatrice stepped closer, examining the symbol closely. "This could be a clue. We need to understand what happened here. Let's see if we can find anything else." As she spoke, Anna began to search one of the tables, rifling through old papers that were covered in dust. Raphael moved away slightly, his eyes scanning the auditorium for anything that could be evidence. Suddenly, Anna exclaimed, "Look at this!" She held up a yellowed piece of paper. "It's a program for a ceremony that happened here years ago. It says students go missing during the rituals." Raphael's expression changed, and disbelief gave way to genuine concern. "This is serious," he murmured, looking at the paper as if he had just discovered a ticking bomb. "We need to know more about this ceremony," I insisted, feeling a mix of fear and determination. Lucas might have been one of them. Beatrice nodded, taking the paper from Anna's hands. "We need to find out who the members of the society were at that time. This could give us an idea of who was behind this." As we discussed, a cold draft swept through the auditorium, causing our clothes to flutter. I looked at the others, realizing that they all felt it. The atmosphere was changing, and tension was rising. Raphael frowned. "This isn't normal. We should get out of here." However, Beatrice didn't seem willing to give up. "We came all this way. We need to understand what happened." We decided to seek more information about the ceremony, and our focus shifted to the stage. Upon examining it more closely, we found marks on the floor, as if something had been dragged there. Fear began to seep into me, but curiosity prevailed. "What if the ceremony is still happening in some way?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Let's not go crazy with these theories," Raphael said, trying to sound confident. "This is just a school, not a horror movie." But his words couldn't hide the nervousness that was evident in his eyes. We decided to split up a bit to investigate further. I went to the back of the auditorium, where a huge curtain was pinned. As I tried to pull it, a strange sensation washed over me, as if something was watching me. Adrenaline surged through my veins. "Hey guys, come here!" I shouted, trying to shake off the feeling that we weren't alone. Anna and Beatrice rushed to me, while Raphael hesitated, clearly more disturbed than he was willing to admit. "What is it?" Beatrice asked, breathless. "What did you find?" "Look at this," I said, pulling the curtain aside to reveal an old door, covered in marks and dirt. "There's something here." The door seemed to have been forgotten for decades, and a part of me hesitated. What could be on the other side? "Let's open it," Beatrice said, her voice carrying a mix of excitement and determination. Raphael, on the other hand, seemed increasingly uncomfortable. "I don't know, this isn't a good idea. What if it's a trap?" But Anna, a spark of courage in her eyes, replied, "We need to uncover the truth. Lucas deserves that." Her conviction was contagious. With great effort, we managed to open the door. A smell of dampness and mold hit us hard. The darkness behind the door seemed to swallow everything, and I hesitated for a moment before entering. "Let's take it slow," I said, trying to stay calm, even though my heart was racing. The revealed room was a small space, surrounded by exposed brick walls and a single dirty window. There was an improvised altar in the center, with melted candles and objects that seemed to have belonged to students. Beatrice moved closer, examining what looked like an ancient book of rituals. "Look at this. These students, they were involved in something much deeper than we imagined." Raphael, still on high alert, whispered, "This is absurd. We can't believe all of this. What if it's just a hoax?" But the certainty in Beatrice's voice made him fall silent. "What's written here might help us understand how all of this relates to Lucas. We need to read it." As we started to flip through the pages, a strange feeling filled the atmosphere. The candles around us began to light up, one by one, as if an invisible force was orchestrating everything. This isn't normal," I said, feeling a chill run down my spine. "We're tampering with something we shouldn't." Anna, on the other hand, was completely absorbed in what she was reading. "Look at this. It talks about rituals that involve the passage of souls. It says that if they aren't completed, the souls get trapped." What did this mean for Lucas? Was he one of those souls? The horror of the situation hit me like a blow. At that moment, a whisper echoed in the air, calling our names. "Lucas," I murmured, not realizing the words had escaped my lips. The sound was coming from all around us, and the tension was unbearable. "I think we should get out," Raphael insisted, his voice now trembling. But before we could move, the door we had opened slammed shut with a bang, making the ground shake beneath our feet. We felt the presence of something, as if a shadow was watching us, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Panic took hold of the group, and without thinking, we began to search for an exit. "This can't be happening! What's going on?" Beatrice screamed, her courage beginning to fade. "We need to get out of here now!" Panic overtook her, and she started banging on the door, but nothing happened. The candles around us were now lit, casting dancing shadows on the walls. "Calm down. We all need to stay calm," I said, trying to be the voice of reason, but the truth was I was terrified too. "Lucas, if you are here, we need you," Anna exclaimed, tears starting to slip down her face. And, as if responding to our call, the temperature in the room plummeted, and a shadowy figure began to materialize before us. The heart raced in my chest. It was a disturbing sight, a shadow with indistinct contours, but somehow resembling Lucas. The atmosphere was saturated with a feeling of despair and sadness. "Lucas!" I shouted, feeling the tears streaming down my face. "We're here to help!" The figure hesitated, its essence seeming to waver, as if it were fighting against something much greater than us. Then in a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere, I heard, "Help me!" Anna impulsively stepped forward. "We will help you. What do you need?" The answer didn't come immediately, but the figure began to approach, almost as if trying to materialize completely. The atmosphere in the auditorium was dense, heavy, as if the air had become a cloak of anxiety. I remember looking at the faces of my friends, each reflecting a mix of fear and determination. Beatrice, always so brave, seemed especially focused, as if preparing her mind for what was to come. Raphael, on the other hand, was restless. His skepticism, which had always been an anchor amid the turmoil of emotions, now felt more like a defense against what we knew we were about to face. "We need to focus," Beatrice said, breaking the silence, her voice firm. "If Lucas is really here, then we have to do this the right way." Anna, who was beside me, held my hand tightly. I could feel the tension in her body, the fear and hope intertwining as one. "What do you think we should do?" I asked, trying to understand her plan. She took a deep breath and looked at us. "I think we should try a ritual. Something simple, but that could attract his energy. If Lucas is close, maybe we can connect with him." Raphael shook his head, his gaze drifting to some distant point. "And if that just makes things worse? What if instead of Lucas we call something we can't control?" The doubt in his voice made my heart race. "It's a risk we have to take," I replied. "We're already in this up to our necks. We have to try." The auditorium was shrouded in shadows, the dim light from the lanterns we had brought barely illuminating the darkest corners. The stage, once vibrant with performances, now looked like an altar of mysteries and unspoken secrets. We formed a small circle in the center of the stage, sitting cross-legged, and began to talk about Lucas, about who he was, about the memories we held of him. "Lucas, if you can hear us, please manifest yourself. We're here to help you," Anna said, her voice soft and full of emotion. There was a deep silence, and for a few moments all we could hear was the sound of our breaths and the faint crackling of the lanterns. Time seemed to stretch, and I didn't know if I was anxiously awaiting or fearing the response. Then suddenly, a cold wind swept through the auditorium, and the light of one of the lanterns flickered. The cold was intense, and a shiver ran down my spine. "Did you feel that?" Beatrice asked, looking at us with wide eyes. We all nodded, and the tension increased. "Lucas, if you're here, please give us a sign," I pleaded, my voice almost a whisper. The silence stretched again, heavy and oppressive, until finally a soft voice began to echo, whispering our names, but specifically, Anna. The sound was so ethereal that it seemed to come from all sides at once. Anna turned pale, and I could see tears forming in her eyes. "Lucas," she called, almost pleading, "is it you?" "We need to help," the voice whispered again, and then, suddenly, as if a light had been turned on, an image formed in my mind. Lucas, smiling, but with a look of concern. He was trying to convey a message to us, something that was trapped in his heart. He wants us to know something," I said, trying to organize my thoughts. "I think he's trying to warn us about an injustice. Something that happened before his disappearance." Beatrice frowned, as if trying to understand. "What does that mean? What does Lucas want us to do?" Maybe he's asking us to investigate further. Anna suggested, her voice trembling. He might be trapped here because of something we can't understand. Raphael was silent, but I could see he was struggling internally. What if, instead of helping Lucas, we're just getting ourselves into something much deeper, something we can't comprehend? We need to have faith, Raphael, Beatrice replied, her tone firm. If Lucas chose us for this, then we have to trust our instincts. Lucas's voice began to become clearer, as if he were struggling to manifest. Injustice, past secrets, society. The words floated in the air, and a wave of emotion washed over me. It was as if he were trying to guide us down a path we could not yet see clearly. What do you mean by society? Anna asked, her voice almost a whisper. Lucas, please tell us more. Discover the truth. The voice echoed, and in an instant, the temperature of the room dropped drastically. I felt fear rising within me, but I couldn't let that stop us. Something was forming, something we did not yet understand. At that moment, the lanterns began to flicker frantically, almost as if they were dancing in a crazy choreography. The environment began to tremble slightly, and I exchanged glances with my friends. We need to get out of here, Raphael said, standing up abruptly. This is getting too dangerous. We can't leave now, Beatrice protested, gripping his arm. We're so close to discovering the truth, we can't give up now. But what if that truth puts us in danger? What if the secret society Lucas mentioned isn't just a legend? Raphael was visibly nervous, and I could feel the tension building between us. We need to decide now, Anna said, her voice determined. If we stay here, we might discover something that could change everything. Not just for us, but for Lucas too. Hearing her words, something ignited within me. It was true. We were in the midst of something much bigger than ourselves, and Lucas needed our help. Let's continue. We need to know what really happened. With nods of agreement, we sat back down, forming a circle. The light from the lanterns now seemed more stable, and I could feel Lucas's presence stronger than before. Lucas, we're here to help you, I said, and we all joined in a moment of silence, trying to feel the energy around us. If you can guide us, please show us what we need to do. Secrets, revelations, justice. The echo of his words seemed to travel through the auditorium, filling every corner with a palpable expectation. The idea that Lucas needed us to reveal some hidden truth gave us a new perspective. Maybe we should investigate more about the secret society, Beatrice suggested. If Lucas was involved, then we need to find out what he knew, what he was about to reveal. But before we could continue, a shadow materialized at the back of the auditorium, so dark that it seemed to swallow the light around it. Fear took hold of me, and I felt my heart race. What is that? I whispered, looking at my friends. Stay together, Beatrice shouted, her determination resonating like a beacon amid the chaos. The shadow moved closer, and an oppressive presence filled the space, as if we were being watched by something that didn't belong to this world. Lucas! Anna shouted, her voice filled with desperation. We're here for you! Don't be afraid! The shadow stopped a few steps away from us, and a deep, dark voice emerged from it. You shouldn't be here. The secrets must remain buried. A chill ran down my spine, and I realized that the truth we were so eager to uncover could be more dangerous than we imagined. Who are you? I asked, trying to sound bolder than I really felt. The figure moved closer, revealing a pale, empty face. I am the guardian of secrets, and you are about to cross a line you cannot uncross. The tension grew, and the atmosphere seemed to vibrate with strange energy. Whatever it was warning us, but Beatrice and Anna's determination was stronger than the fear that surrounded us. Lucas, are you here? We're doing this for you! Beatrice shouted, her voice echoing in the silent auditorium. And then, in the midst of that confrontation, the lantern's light began to flicker again, as if Lucas were trying to fight against the darkness surrounding us. Help! Justice! His voice echoed, and I felt a wave of hope. We're with you, Lucas! I shouted, not knowing if the shadow would hear, but feeling we needed to maintain the connection. We won't give up. The shadow hesitated, and I realized that the battle between light and darkness was just beginning. The tension in the air was palpable, as if the school itself was holding its breath. The old auditorium, with its peeling walls and dusty chairs, had become the center of our investigation. The plan was simple: confront Lucas's spirit and uncover the truth about his disappearance. But as we prepared for the session, a strange feeling enveloped me, a premonition I couldn't ignore. "Are you all ready?" Beatrice asked, her voice steady, but there was a subtle tremor that betrayed her determination. She had always been the leader of the group, the one who guided us when uncertainty arose. But now, there was something in her gaze that made me uneasy. "I'm ready, but what if this doesn't work? What if we only end up irritating his spirit?" Raphael said, shaking his head, his skepticism on full display. "We have to try, Raphael. Lucas needs us. He can't have disappeared without leaving an explanation," I replied, trying to inject some encouragement into the situation. Beatrice nodded and organized us into a circle. The atmosphere was charged with electricity, and I could feel the presence of something. Not just Lucas's, but a more ancient, powerful force that was behind all of this. "Let's focus on his energy. Concentrate on Lucas," Beatrice instructed. Each of us closed our eyes, and I took a deep breath, trying to tune in to whatever was there with us. The darkness of the auditorium seemed to thicken. I could hear my heart pounding, and then a soft voice began to echo off the walls, as if the very stones were whispering. "Help me." My body trembled. "Lucas," I called, my voice sounding weak and uncertain. "I am here." The response came like a whisper, but it was more like a distant song, filled with pain and despair. "We need to know what happened to you. What do you want us to do?" Beatrice asked, her voice now full of emotion. A cold breeze swept through the auditorium, causing all of us to shudder. Then the voice became clearer. "I was not just a victim. There was a plan. A bigger plan." "What plan?" Raphael insisted, breaking the silence that followed. "What do you mean by that?" "The secrets of the society." The voice hesitated, and I felt its anguish. "I was about to expose everything. They could not allow it. You need to know the truth before it's too late." "Who are they?" I asked, my mind spinning in search of answers. "You have to stop. The truth may be more dangerous than you imagine." It was then that I heard a deafening scream echo through the auditorium. "What is this?" Beatrice yelled, as the room seemed to tremble around us. Fear took hold of me, and I didn't know if it was Lucas's spirit or the school itself revealing its dark side. "It's the society. They're trying to stop us," Raphael shouted, his face pale. "Stay together," Beatrice ordered, but her voice was filled with panic. I looked around, searching for something that could help us, but all I saw were dancing shadows and echoes of a dark past. At that moment, the truth that Beatrice had kept hidden began to form in my mind. My heart raced. "Beatrice, you know something, don't you? What's happening?" She hesitated, her gaze distant. I am a descendant of the founder of the secret society. I didn't want to tell you, but I didn't know Lucas was involved until now." "You knew him? You knew he was in danger?" The accusation in my voice was unmistakable. "No, I never knew. He never told me anything. I just wanted to protect you." Tears began to slide down Beatrice's face, and I felt torn between anger and compassion. "And what if you're part of the problem, Beatrice? What if Lucas was about to expose the truth about your family?" Raphael said, his voice trembling. "No, I'm not like them," she shouted, desperate. "I just wanted this to end, for the society to stop hurting innocent people." The room began to tremble even more, as if an invisible force was trying to pull us apart. "Lucas, help us! What should we do?" I cried, feeling that the situation was becoming untenable. "Go to the old archive. What's hidden there may save you. But the truth can be devastating." Lucas's voice grew weaker, almost inaudible. "Hurry! Let's go!" Beatrice shouted, pulling us out of the auditorium as the walls seemed to close in around us. Fear accompanied me like a shadow, but the need to know the truth propelled me forward. We ran through the hallways. The school now felt alive, as if it was moving, twisting around us. The sound of footsteps echoed, but there was no one around. "What's happening?" Raphael asked, his breath heavy. "We need to get to the archive. Whatever Lucas left for us might be there," Beatrice shouted, leading the way. Finally, we reached the archive door, an old wooden door covered in dust. Beatrice pushed the door, and it creaked open, revealing a forgotten world. The space was filled with dusty boxes and yellowed documents. The atmosphere was thick, as if the air was laden with unspoken secrets. "Search! We need to find something," I said, starting to open boxes and rummage through papers. "Look at this!" Raphael shouted, holding up an old diary. "This could be important." "Let me see." I stepped closer, and what I saw made my heart stop. It was the diary of one of the founders of the secret society. The pages were filled with notes about rituals, names, and dates that seemed intertwined with the history of the school. "This date, it's the same as the day Lucas disappeared," Beatrice exclaimed, pointing to a specific passage. "He knew something. He was about to expose everything," Raphael said, looking at us with wide eyes. But before we could continue, a shadow moved in the corner of the archive. "No! You can't know!" A hooded figure appeared, its presence oppressive, and I felt a cold shiver run through my body. "Who are you?" Beatrice challenged, but her voice was trembling. "The society will not allow the truth to be revealed. You don't understand what you're doing." The figure spoke, its voice resonating with a power that made me hesitate. "Lucas deserves justice. You can't stop us," I shouted, feeling courage swell within me. "You don't know what forces you're opposing." The figure raised its hands, and a wave of energy began to swirl around us. "Leave now, or you will suffer the consequences." "We won't let you stop us," Beatrice shouted, her determination shining. We all joined together, forming a circle around the diary as if it were our only defense. "Lucas, we need you," I cried, desperation taking over me. The air around us began to vibrate, and a light started to emanate from the diary. The hooded figure hesitated, appearing confused. "You can't—" But before she could finish, the light intensified, and the figure was pushed back, disappearing into the shadows. And then, in the midst of the light, Lucas's figure appeared, his expression filled with pain and determination. "The truth must be revealed. Do not be afraid." "The truth? What do we do with it?" Beatrice asked, her voice now softer but still full of emotion. "You need to tell everyone. Don't let fear stop you. The secret society feeds on silence. Only the truth can set you free." He looked at us, his eyes full of sadness, but also of hope. "But what if the truth is more devastating than we can imagine?" I asked, uncertainty gnawing at my courage. "Sometimes you have to face what you fear the most. Only then can you move forward," Lucas said, and his words echoed in our hearts. The light began to dissipate, and Lucas's figure started to fade away. "Fight for the truth. I will be with you." With one last scream, the school began to crumble around us, the walls shaking and the whispers intensifying, as if the very structure was